All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Wellness Wednesday. So excited to have you. October, here we are. In the month of October, we have a theme. You're going to notice it through every one of our My Free Life sessions this month, and we've got some great stuff for you. But the theme this month is health, and we were very strategic about why we chose October for health. And I'm curious if you know why. The reason is next month, the holiday season begins. We have Thanksgiving and then we move into December. And regardless of what you celebrate, all kinds of get togethers, all kinds of reasons to eat and drink things that maybe we shouldn't. And for many, it's a season of stress. I know this year will be the first year that we go through the holidays without my mom. And so that's going to be a really interesting experience for myself and my family. So we wanted to talk about health in October as kind of a commitment. It's a commitment to you really focusing and doubling down, maybe even reviving some of the habits that you have around health so that you can finish this year strong. You can set yourself up for next year and you can enjoy the holiday season, regardless of what that looks like for you at the highest possible level. Now, to kick this off, I wanted to just start with one of my all-time favorite quotes around health, and it comes from a lady named Mona Sharma, and we'll make sure that you get her Instagram handle. I heard her speak live one time and was just blown away by this quote. Vital health doesn't require you to convince your body through having a strong mindset. You aren't going to trick your body. It's about feeling that true life force energy. It's about getting up and feeling freedom every single day. Well, I absolutely loved that quote, right? About feeling freedom every single day. And I think that it lends to a couple of questions. You know me, I'm a coach, not a consultant. And so I'm always going to go to questions first. And so I wrote a couple of them down here. Number one is, what does health mean to you? Another way to ask that is, how would you describe optimal health? How would you know that you were experiencing optimal health? And I think for most of us, me included, what it really boils down to, one word: energy. Energy. In fact, it reminds me of a quote from one of my all-time favorite books, The Power of Full Engagement. And it's from Jim Layer and Tony Schwartz. Jim Layer and Tony Schwartz were sports psychologists. They have written many books together, some apart, but their stuff is just amazing. And the quote was that energy is the X factor that ignites all talent and skill. Energy is the X factor that ignites all talent and skill. And so when we talk about health, I think that what the majority of us actually want is energy. And I'll never forget a coaching client of mine that I had for many years. Her name is Kate Conroy. She's an amazing person. She's on the Tony Baroni team in Tampa, Florida. And Kate had this really great perspective. In fact, she often had a question. And the question was, what gives you energy? What gives you energy? And I think that we get our health a little bit out of order. And we're going to talk about that today, the hierarchy of health, some things that you can focus on both in the micro and in the macro to optimize your health. But I think it's a really great question, one that I would invite you to reflect on. What gives you energy? And I know for me, it's living in this loop, right? If you took my life and you put it on its side, like if you think about like a number 8 and you laid it on its side, it becomes an infinity symbol, right? And what gives me energy is when I'm living in this loop. On the left-hand side, I'm a student. I'm studying, I'm researching. On the right-hand side, I'm teaching, like this right now. I'm training myself and others. And then when you think about where those two things meet, right in the middle, I think of that as coaching. So what gives me energy is when I'm living in that loop. In fact, if I notice that my energy is a little bit off, or maybe I'm not having great days, I'm in what I call the days of darkness, right? It's typically because I have fallen out of that loop. I'm out of the loop of being a student, a teacher, and a coach. And when I get back into that loop, man, my energy comes alive. Now, another question that I would ask you, because I think one of the challenges that we have as it relates to our health is, do you view your body as a vehicle for your vanity or a vehicle for your vision? See, I love this quote that came from Brianna Wiest in the book, The Mountain Is You. She said, loving your body only when it looks the way you think it should is like loving your children only when they behave the way you think they should. And you know, if you have children, that we love our children regardless, right? And oftentimes, I think that we struggle with our health because we're focused on the wrong thing. Instead of being focused on how do I optimize my energy, we're focused on how do I optimize my vanity. It's more about how we look, right? And particularly to other people. And so I would just invite you, and I don't know that anybody's going to get completely out of vanity. I think all of us want to look good and feel good, right? We want our clothes to fit. We want to be able to athletically perform in whatever endeavor that might be for you. But at the end of the day, we want to be clear that we have this body and it's our only body. And that this body is one that is a vehicle for our vision. And when we think of it that way, we tend to want to nurture and nourish it instead of torture and torment it. I think we put ourselves through things when we're focused on vanity that maybe aren't the best things for our body. And we want to really learn to listen to it. We want to learn how to nourish it and take care of it so that we have the energy, we have the focus to go out there and build the vision that we so earnestly seek. So is it a vehicle for your vanity or is it a vehicle for your vision? Now, when we think about changing the habits that we have around health, why is it that we so badly struggle with this? And I think that there's a few key reasons. One is that we lack patience with our bodies. We often look at this like Amazon Prime. We want results in 2 days. And you and I both know that reconditioning a body can take 4, 6, 8, 12 months. It's a journey. And one of my favorite passages, you've probably heard me read this before. I'm not going to go into it all right now, but it comes from this book right here. It's called The Single Decision. And it comes from a guy named Coach Sommer. And what he says in there, this one line that is so brilliant, is quality long-term results require quality long-term focus. And see, we're so mired in instant gratification, instant results, that we lack the patience. And so what happens is that when we seek to create change, especially at a health level, we resort to one of two behaviors: extreme behavior or gimmicks. And extreme behavior meaning we're not in shape, we're not physically strong, whatever. And many of you have heard me say this before, but we're going to do the 75 hard, right? We're going to work out twice a day for 45 minutes, one of them outside. And we're going to be perfect for 75 days. And what the issue is here is that you are trading consistency for intensity. And most of the time we can't stick with that. And it's going to reinforce the negativity that we don't follow through. It's so much better to start small and to be consistent than to start big and intense and not be able to follow through. Now, on the other side of this, we have gimmicks, right? Gimmicks are things that we use as cheat codes. You all know how I feel about Ozempic. It is the ultimate cheat code. And just understand, anything you cheat with will eventually cheat on you. We're going to be hearing about this for the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months. And people are going to get cheated on by that drug because they're using it to bypass the work. Okay. So another thing about why we struggle so earnestly with this is as it relates to making change. Most people, especially with health, and let's just pick your diet as it's really an easy example to understand. They're going to resort to abstinence not association. What do I mean by that? Well, when you think about abstinence, right? I'm just not going to eat those foods. I'm not going to eat the pizza. I'm not going to eat the cheeseburger. And that abstinence, that feeling inside of you creates FOMO. You feel like you're missing out. And write this down. This is a really important lesson. Anytime we create change, it is our tendency to focus on what we are losing first. Anytime we seek to create change, it is our tendency to focus on what we are losing first, meaning I'm losing the pizza, I'm moving the cheeseburger. There's something that's missing from my life, right? And what I think is better, whether it's diet or anything else, is to change through association. What does that mean? Well, we're all association machines, meaning we are constantly interpreting the world and associating certain activities with pain or pleasure. See, somebody who regularly eats cheeseburgers and pizza associates pleasure to that food. And so when they try to abstain from it, they create all this internal resistance. And there's just a little bit of work that you can do ahead of this change, that if you learn to associate pain to the foods that are holding you back, you are far more likely to abstain from those foods than if you just white knuckle your way through it. And so if you think about pizza, for example, right? Think about how you feel after you've smashed 3, 4, 5, 6 pieces of pizza. Think about how your gut feels. Think about the grease as it leaks into your intestines. Think about like burping that up and how gross that is. Think about all the oil that you just ingested, the cheese, the fat, all the processed meat, because most of us, if we're eating pizza, right, we're getting it from some major pizza chain that is using really junky recipes in the first place. But here's the deal, is that if you get really clear, if you get yourself disgusted around that pizza, the grease, the fat, the feeling, all the stuff that's going to come as a result of eating that, well, now you've associated pain to it. Now, when you think about eating pizza, you get that feeling in your stomach where it's like, oh, that's kind of gross. I don't want that anymore. And that's what I mean about the difference between abstinence and association. See, when you change the association and you learn to associate pain to those foods, now we want to flip it over to what is it that I'm going to get? See, as I mentioned, we typically focus on what we're losing, but we don't focus on what we're gaining. What is it that you ultimately receive by eating in a healthy, nourishing way? Well, you get energy, you get pride. You don't have that sluggish feeling anymore. Your brain starts to fire the way that it's supposed to fire. Your thoughts get clearer. Everything actually gets easier. Write this down. Energy makes life easier. See, so many of you are pushing and sludging through life in an energy deficit, and it's mostly because of your health habits. And if you were to just shift, you would find that after a time, right? After a time that you start to reestablish these new health habits, your life will get much easier. Energy makes easier. So when we're looking to create change, we want to be really clear on that. We want to change the level of association. Change what you associate pain and pleasure to. Don't just abstain. That typically isn't going to lead you anywhere. And what happens with most people, especially as it relates to health and weight, is not only are they going to gain everything back, they're also going to gain a few more, if not a lot more pounds. So change at the level of association, not abstinence. Now, I had mentioned before that there's kind of a hierarchy of health. And when people come to me in the coaching space, right, and they're looking to get more energy, they're looking to get healthy. And we've established that this is for their vision, not just their vanity, right? I always walk them through the hierarchy of health. And I do this just through a series of questions. Now, when most people seek to create energy, they're going to resort to exercise. That's the first thing they're going to go to, right? And look, nothing wrong with that. And yet, when you think about exercise, how long can someone live without exercising? How long can they live? Well, some people live into their 70s or their 80s. Stephen Hawking was in a wheelchair, and I think he lived into his 70s. So you can live decades without exercising, right? Now, how long can you live without food? How long can you live without food? 3 weeks. 3 weeks. How long can you live without sleep? How long can you live without sleep? About 5 days, 5 to 7 tops. How long can you live without water? 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days. How long can you live without air, without breathing? 2 to 3 minutes, depending on your VO2 and your level of fitness, right? So what I want you to see here is that there's a hierarchy. And the reason that I want you to see this is because these are all levers that you can pull. And yet there are some that you can pull quicker and make yourself feel better. And breath is definitely one. And I always notice this when we teach in my Freed Life, because we have people go through this priming exercise where they breathe or they do these heart breaths. And I'm asking them to breathe really deeply into their heart. And if your shoulders go up when you're breathing, that means that you're not breathing through your diaphragm. Your stomach should go out, not your shoulders coming up. We don't breathe properly. We also don't practice breath, even though breath is like the one vital behavior that we actually have access to or control over. You don't control your circulation, you don't control your heartbeat, but you do and can control your breath. And so what I would invite you to do is to start practicing some different breath variations that will give you different levels of oxygen in your blood and raise your energy. One of them, that I love is box breathing. I'm not going to walk you through it today. Go Google it. We'll put it into the chat box so that you can check it out. Box breathing. That's a great one. Another one is the breath of fire from yoga. You can do research on this. Go ask ChatGPT. Another one that I do this 3 or 4 times a week, it's Wim, W-I-M, Hof, H-O-F-F, Wim Hof breathing. And Wim Hof breathing is a series of breathing exercises that you go through, and it increases the oxygen in your blood and your lung capacity. I've noticed a major difference in practicing that. He has a great app. He'll teach you the whole thing. It's like $5 a month. But see, if you start with breath, it is so easily accessible to you. You could do it right now. You don't have to have special clothes or a gym or go outside or anything. You don't need weights. You do it right now. Now, water, look, the water thing hasn't changed. Everybody says the same thing. Half of your body weight in ounces per day. So if you weigh 200 pounds, minimum, you need to be drinking 100 ounces of water. If you're like me, you're a coffee drinker, it needs to be more. Right? I always think of it as for every ounce of coffee I drink, I need to drink 2 ounces of water. So if I drink 1 cup of coffee, then I need to subsidize with 16 ounces of water, right? On top of my body weight, which I weigh about 165 pounds. So I need to, on average, drink a minimum of 100 roughly ounces of water a day. And you're not going to feel instantly better from this, but over the next 2 to 3 days, if you really focus on your water intake, you will feel better. Now, when we talk about sleep, optimizing for sleep, there's all kinds of things that you can do here. There's a really great researcher out there. His name is Dr. Nathan Walker, and he has a TED Talk that I would recommend that you check out. But a few little things that I can offer you. Number one, get your phone out of your room. Get your phone out of your room. The phone being in your room is such a distraction. It's the light isn't good for you. So I have a Garmin watch. This is my alarm. If you're one of those people telling me, well, my phone is my alarm, invest $12 and buy an alarm clock. Get your phone out of your room. And the other thing is that if you don't have like blackout shades or something that will block out the sunlight, depending upon what time you go to bed or what time you get up, you want to eliminate as much light as you possibly can. If you watch television in bed, maybe substitute that for reading, and read something really boring. Like right now, I'm reading this book called Deep Nutrition, and it's really good. I like the book, but my God, is it boring. It's a great book to read right before bed, because I can only read like 4 or 5 pages. Like the one I was reading the other day is about epigenetics. Like that's about as exciting as watching paint dry. I fall right to sleep after that. So with sleep, the main thing with it though is you need to optimize for it. We should stop asking ourselves how, or asking others, how are you doing? And ask the question, how are you sleeping? And what's interesting is that I've learned in coaching people that if I have somebody who's out of sorts, like I can just tell their energy is off. And we just go back and look at the previous 2 to 3 nights of how much sleep they've gotten. Their sleep has been disrupted somehow, and we completely undervalue the power of sleep. We have this whole culture around, oh, I only need 4 or 5 hours. Well, good for you. What I've learned about myself is I need 7 to 7.5 consistently, or I just can't cognitively perform. So optimize for this, focus on it again. But these are minor little tweaks. Take the phone out of the room, eliminate light, and read instead of watch TV. Right now, when we get into food, you have to find the model that is right for you. I'll tell you the thing that has helped me the most over the years. At my heaviest, I weighed 195 pounds, lost 30 pounds, and have kept it off. And the template that I've followed on that is the slow carb diet from Tim Ferriss. You can go to look this up. I'm not going to walk you through it all. Basically, it's paleo with beans, meaning you can still have legumes. But it's very strict 6 days a week. And every Saturday, they call it Fatterday, you get to eat whatever you want. So you get this one day where you get to eat any and everything that you want. But that diet, that plan worked so well for me. I also think that we need to be considering how it was that we were created and designed, what we were meant to eat. And a lot of what we ingest today does not come from a plant. It is made in a plant. And then we wonder why we're out of sorts and anxious and depressed. And it's because you're putting things into your biome that have no business being in there. And then why would you be surprised that you feel off? And I'll tell you that the diet that seems to be rising to the top, there's 2 of them. Mediterranean, that's something I would invite you to consider. Gary Keller shared with me, that's what he follows. And another one is Pegan. And Pegan is 25% paleo and 75% vegan. So go do your research on that. I learned about that from Dr. Mark Hyman. And I think that you should be looking to eat really, really well about 90 to 95% of the time. You've got about 5 to 10% leeway here. If you're eating really healthy 90 to 95% of the time, you're doing really well. Now, exercise, look, here's what I'll say about exercise. Do the thing that you'll do. So there are some people out there, they're runners. Others are weightlifters. I'm a yoga guy, right? Now, I do other things. I do go out and lift weights. Those things are important. What they're finding now is that muscle is, in fact, medicine. And yet, at the same time, if I ever find myself out of the routine, the thing I'm always going to go back to is yoga. If I could only do one form of exercise, it would be yoga. And for some of you, that might be too strenuous. You should just start with walking every day, creating a minimum step amount and saying every day, rain or shine, I'm going to hit that step amount. I'm going to do it. And, when somebody, again, comes to me and says, I'm really out of balance with my health, the first 3 things I'm going to have them do, and I'll hand this to you. It's a really easy plan. Number 1, 10,000 steps every single day. Take 10,000 steps every single day. Number 2, log every single thing you eat into MyFitnessPal. Everything you put in your mouth goes into that app, and that's going to raise the awareness of what it is that you're eating. And then lastly, drink a gallon of water every day. Flush the toxins out. Just those 3 things for 30 days. Forget about everything else. Super, super easy plan. But what I want you to understand here, and I know that there's been a lot here as it relates to the hierarchy of health, is work from the inside out. You don't have to work from the outside in. Sometimes focusing on exercise and food is so hard for people that they just can't ever get themselves going. So you can start with breath, you can start with water and sleep, and just see if by feeling better, then you don't have the energy, or that you wouldn't generate the energy to be able to eat well and to ultimately exercise. And that hierarchy of health, man, it is so important. It's so helpful. In this last section, I just wanted to give you one quick health hack, just something that I can share with you from personal experience that has changed the relationship that I have to my own health. And that is this Whoop band. I've had this since January. I was at a Phil Jones, actually, their certification in New York. And I was sitting around a table with some friends, Kim Zuroff, Jen Davis, Liz Landry, Liz's significant other, Chris. We were all sitting there, and like the whole table, except for maybe Jen and I, all had Whoop bands on. And I was like, well, I got to get in on this. So I bought it, and it is unbelievable how intuitive this thing is. And I've learned that I just need to kind of follow what it tells me to do. It tells me even like, today you should exercise, but do it in this range. And when I follow the Whoop's advice and the things that it tells me to do, my energy goes up. I feel better. It's like walking around with a coach on your wrist. And yes, you have to pay for it. You know, I have people like, oh my God, I have to pay $30 a month. Yeah, but you go out and smash that in drinks every Friday night. Like, take one Friday off and buy the Whoop app, right? But the insights, the awareness, the things that it creates, and like I mentioned, it's unbelievably intuitive. Some of the things that it shares with me, I was talking to my friend Ken Posick about this, and I was like, man, I can't believe how accurate and some of the things that this thing can do. And so you can hire a coach, you can get something like this that really does help. And all we're looking to do is to create awareness for you to have kind of a customized plan that works for you. And so I know that I've covered a lot today. October is going to be a big month here at Wellness Wednesday. We've got some different things coming your way. Obviously, we're starting at 7:30 Central. And yet we need to focus on our health. We need to double down on our health habits. If they have been put away, let's revive them before the holiday season so that you can enjoy it, that it doesn't make you sick. You can start next year strong. And I know that I covered a lot today. I would encourage you to go back and listen to this again. And if you just get one or two insights from this conversation, I will have won as your coach here today. Next week, we will be back, same day, same time. I've got a special guest that's going to be joining me. It's going to be really, really great. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Thank you for the opportunity to share this work with you. And I know in my heart that you're going to take what you learned today and apply it so you too can have the ability, you too can build your version of a freed life. Thank you for being here. Live freed.